our NFL segment. But it's breaking now that the Buffalo Bills have released their star running back, LeSean McCoy. Initial reactions to that, Derek?
As far as it pertains to the Colts?
Or well, maybe, I don't know, but just just put it out there. Just laying an egg there for you guys.
I think the Colts, this is always what happens whenever a big line player is released, and I'm sure the Colts aren't the only market where this happens in the NFL. All the fans start asking, hey, is this guy a fit for our team? I think the Colts, from a Colts perspective, I think they're happy with the three that they have. Really, the two that they have, the top two, and Marlon Mack, who I think is poised for a breakout season even after the SWAT news, and also Nyheim Hines, who's kind of their Swiss Army knife as their second running back, who can really good at catching the ball out of the backfield. He was an All-ACC sprinter during his college days, and then Jordan Wilkins or whoever ends up winning the number 3 job is going to be another young player who they like as well. But McCoy at this point, I believe, is 31, 32 years old.
I believe so, yeah.
Generally with running backs, they don't gradually decline. Frank Gore is the exception to the rule, I guess. They fall off a cliff, and I know he's dealt with some injury issues. He did have an 1,000-yard season 2 years ago when they beat the Colts, and he had a walk-off touchdown in that snowstorm in Buffalo. But overall, I think I'd pass on LeSean McCoy. I'm really high on Marlon Mack this year for the Colts, and McCoy will end up somewhere. Somebody's going to take a flyer, but I don't think it's going to be Indianapolis.
Well, let's talk about Indianapolis going out there to the market. I mean, I kind of like the way Kelly looked preseason game. Although we still got to look at until he proves us differently, and I'm not trying to get on the hot take bus here, but until he proves us differently, he's still just a backup quarterback. Do we go after and look at quarterbacks that might could fill the role? I mean, we look at Sutfield that's out there. Is there anybody out there that the Colts might have their eye on that might push Jacoby back to a QB2? I know he's happy and having I'm sure this is a dream of a lifetime to lead a team and be the face of a team for the moment, and he was kind of just thrown into this, or maybe he was, or maybe he wasn't. Maybe they knew a long time ago that this was going to happen, and they've been prepping Jacoby Brissett for this, even in the OTAs. Maybe the inner beings may have knew this, even if the fans didn't know this, and it may have came across as a shock. I think that the Colts have a bit of a PR nightmare, but should fans be comfortable and happy with Jacoby Brissett, because we have a much different line than what we did a few years ago when he was leading the team. And I think, honestly, I still think that we could sneak into the playoffs even with Jacoby Brissett. Derek?
Yeah, I don't think that it's unheard of that the Colts could still win this division, because the other 3 teams have major question marks as well. Houston just lost Lamar Miller. They have probably the worst offensive line in the entire NFL. So while they have the most stable quarterback in Deshaun Watson, you look around the rest of that roster, and they're largely built on just a couple of stars. It's largely built on Hopkins and Watson and Watt, and if they end up having Clowney this year, on Jadeveon Clowney, and then you look at the rest of the roster, and it leaves a lot to be desired. Jacksonville presumably is going to get competent quarterback play with Nick Foles, and that roster is still loaded with talent, but there's been a lot of drama over there. I think there are some question marks with the coaching staff. And then Tennessee is just kind of there. They're not good. They're not bad. They're just whatever. Marcus Mariota, this is a make-or-break year for him, but I don't think a lot of people are high on his ability and the fact that he's been injury-prone. So I don't think it's unheard of that the Colts can even come through and sneak and win the division. But this schedule, guys, is just so much tougher than it was last year, especially when you consider the opposing quarterbacks that they're going to face. They've got Cam Newton, they've got Matt Ryan, and Drew Brees all on this schedule, and that's just the NFC South teams. That doesn't include Ben Roethlisberger and the reigning MVP and Patrick Mahomes, Phillip Rivers in Week 1, and the LA Chargers. It's going to be a difficult slog for them this year. This isn't the schedule that they played last year, where Eli Manning was one of the best quarterbacks that they faced in the second half of the year, because they had guys like Blaine Gabbert, and Buffalo brought back Derek Anderson from the dead to start a game. I think somebody named Cody Kessler started for Jacksonville, which is a game that Surprisingly, the Jaguars actually won 6-0, which is 4 hours of my life that I'll never get back. So the Colts will, the Colts aren't going to have an easy game. Give them credit. They won 9 of 10. They resurrected their season. They made the playoffs. They won a road playoff game, right? All that stuff was great. But a lot of what they did last year was predicated on playing an awful schedule, especially in the second half. And I just don't think on paper that it lines up that way for them in 2019.
Matthew Hicks joins us. Matthew, you've been around the Indy media for a long time. You mentioned also that you're a season ticket holder of the Colts, and a lot of season ticket holders said, "Hey, I'm out. I'm done. I'm selling my tickets, lock, stock, and barrel." And Overton, former Colts player Overton, Matt Overton, said he would buy some. You know what? And one of my colleagues, he's like, "I'm one of those guys too." I was like, "Well, put me down." So he's like, I've only got like 3 games left. He's like, the Texans, the Titans, and the Panthers. I was like, all right, I'll take them off your hands. So I bought those 3 tickets. But we look at the AFC South. I love going to divisional matchups. At home, you got the Titans and you got the Texans. What are your, as a season ticket holder, what were your thoughts? Are you still diehard sick? Because I look at it like this. If you're a season ticket holder and you spend all that money, did you spend all that money because of Peyton Manning or Andrew Luck, or did you spend that money because you're a fan of the team? I would like to think that you spent that money because you're a fan of the team, and I get it that you're a season ticket holder and you want to see your guy go out there and play, but I would think that that's not – I don't know. I would – as much as I would like a Land Rover, I'm not going to spend $100,000 on a vehicle just to have a Land Rover. There's a lot of other things that it may not be that much, but they're up there. It might be a lot of other things that I'm happy driving my Chevy. So it is what it is. But I wouldn't think that I'm just going to spend all that money just to have a Land Rover. Matt, what are your thoughts?
No, I don't want a Land Rover. No. No, I listen, 16 years as a season ticket holder, but I can remember my dad woke me up in the middle of the night to tell me the team was moving here. Middle of the night for me. I was
literally
5 years old. So no. Come on. This is ridiculous. Players get hurt. Things happen. Players retire. This sort of thing happens. And obviously, as far as like fans go, and I'm like by no means like a super fan. I'm probably not a lot of fun to watch a game with. I did a Colts centric show with Jersey Johnny for like almost 10 years. We never once watched a game together because like we're kind of miserable to watch a game together with. So we just kind of sit there and well, they could have done that. But at the same time, by no means am I going to paint my face blue. But listen, I'm a Colts fan, I can more comfortably say that now since I'm kind of not really covering the team anymore. And it doesn't matter who plays for the team to an extent, of course. But no, I'm not disenfranchised. And for those people selling their tickets, that's great. That maybe I can move down a little bit further again. So that's
Well, hey, I ended up with some good seats. They're club level. I'm not gonna complain about them. I'm gonna. No. It was a little pricey, but hey, I took advantage of it while it was there. Riggin, real quickly, I know you don't have a dog in this fight because you're a Lions fan, but as a Lions fan, if that happened in your camp, what would be your thoughts?
Tank for 2 would be my thoughts, but I don't see the Colts doing that because I see the Colts even with Jacoby, if he's just an average quarterback, they're still a good team. They're still going to be in the thick of it in the division. They could still even win the division and make the playoffs, become a wild card team or something. I think they're still that good with Brissett. So they're not exactly going to tank for Tua. They're not going to tank for Trevor Lawrence here in a couple of years. I still think they're a good team. They may not be what they were going to be with Luck, but I think they'll still be in the thick of things too. So I think they'll be okay.
Derek, we're going to give you the final word, and thank you so much for jumping on with us. Derek Schultz of the Query and Schultz Show, 1260 a.m. And I don't know what happened to the FM signal there, but they didn't have to go with the bubblegum music. I'm just saying, if you want my opinion, there it is. I like listening to you on the FM stick, but I got you on the AM stick, and you guys are on iHeart as well. But we'll give you the final word. What are your thoughts?
I think that it's really just kind of been so hard to process. I think the weirdest thing to process, Tom, is Andrew Luck has done everything that he's ever going to do on a football field in Indianapolis. You know, there was always the hope that multiple Super Bowls and, you know, MVPs and all pros and all that stuff was going to come for him. And while he had a very good 7-8 years here, that stuff never came. And that's not Andrew Luck's fault per se. That's, Jim Irsay made those broad proclamations. But I think that's kind of been the hardest thing for Colts fans to cope with. There was always the hope that those things were still coming on the horizon. And now for the first time in 20-plus years, Jacoby Brissett may be a good quarterback. But we don't know. No one knows. And that's the first time that that's happened in 20-plus years for the Colts. Peyton Manning was the surest of sure things. Andrew Luck was the surest of sure things. And Manning absolutely panned out. And Luck, I think, for the most part, panned out. But we don't know now. This level of uncertainty that you have going into the future, I think, is scary for a lot of Colts fans. But as some others said here, like Matt said, this is still a really talented roster. It's still a division that is very much up for grabs. So I think there's some excitement in the unknown and the anticipation of, hey, what could this season be for the Colts, instead of just being doom and gloom. And I also think that there's a sense of relief in not having to go on WebMD and look up a subluxation of a shoulder and a lacerated kidney and a torn abdominal muscle and, all of these injuries and issues that Andrew Luck had throughout his career and just be at peace with the fact that it's now over and now everybody can move on. But I still think the Colts, while the Super Bowl and contending the AFC, all of that stuff is out the window now for 2019, I still think that they could be on a good trajectory here with this audition from Jacoby Brissett, because if he plays really well, it'll end up being a contract extension, then you can move forward with him as your guy. But if things don't go well this year, then that's a whole different topic, because I just don't think this roster is going to be bad enough to get a high-end draft pick. And that's when the question marks really pop up, where who is the next guy? Is it via free agency, or are you trading up? What Chris Ballard has up his sleeve there. So it's exciting and scary kind of at the same time, I think, for folks here in Indianapolis.
Derek Schultz, we appreciate you joining us. Catch him out here local if you're here in Indianapolis. One of the best afternoon sports talk show. And in all fairness, you guys were one of the few people in the local market that did not jump on the national bandwagon type of hot takes and going after the fans and going after Luck. And I won't name the names, but there were some people that went on Twitter and decided that they were going to ridicule Luck, and then there were people that decided to use their microphone. Maybe they're on in the midday. We'll just assume that they are, to give their hot takes about the Indianapolis fans. I think if you're in the local market, you should support the local fans for what they did and not necessarily accuse them. But where can people find your work and masterpieces, Derek?
At Schultz975 on Twitter, and then FoxSportsIndy.com and 1260 AM, and then via the iHeart Radio app as well. And I just want to say that this is the first time that I've ever been on the air with Matt Hicks, and it's a huge honor for me to share the airwaves with Matt.
But one of the ladies in the Indy market, right?
That's right. Yeah. You put up with jerseys for all these years. You end up getting a statue for yourself, or at least you should have one.
That's right. Right outside of Emmis, right there by the circle, the Matt Hicks statue.
Yeah.
All right, Derek, thanks.
If only my key card still worked.
Matthew Hicks, and we appreciate you joining us as well. Where can people find your work and your masterpieces, sir?
Well, first of all, the honor was all mine. For there's no question there. I'm at Hickson05 on Twitter, and like I kind of say, I'm a free agent, but you never know where I might pop up again next. I think the upcoming in November IHSA football championship games are a good spot to look for me next, and that's a fun 2 nights for sure. So I always enjoy doing that, and that from early indications looks like that's going to happen again. So that's very exciting.
That's good. You'll be able to team up with your old friend Bob Lovell. That's for sure.
That's right.
So we'll look forward to it. Matthew, thanks, and have yourself a good holiday weekend, sir.
Yeah, you guys too.
Thank you. Matt Hicks, Derek Schultz.